All of these hats that you're wearing, how do you handle that?
Everything I run is operational and actually has inputs and outputs. It's about controlling data. It's not easy to do. I mean, I totally get that. But when you have your finger on the pulse of how operations are going across every one of your companies, you actually don't worry that much. I'm looking at vital signs. I'm looking at how someone's doing in their sickest of states. I'm looking at pure numbers. And I could tell usually within 2 to 3 minutes looking at a patient in the ICU, exactly how stable are they, what's going to happen to them next hour to 6 hours. I use that same model when I'm dealing with anything I'm looking at across business, professional, personal life, or whatever. And it takes work because you have to literally go there and build what you want on your dashboard.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
What's up, everyone? My name is Jonathan, host here at the Venue RX, and this episode is going to be a really special one. We are talking to one of the owners of the venues that we work with here at Common Sense Events, and that's the management company, of course, that I operate. And I'm really excited about this episode because it's really a deep dive into a lot of the business ventures and other sides of life that some of these owners have. And we have some really cool clients. So I am very honored to welcome Dr. Inderpal Randhawa to the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Good to be here, Jonathan.
So you just threw out the first pitch at the Angels game. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. They were playing against the Kansas City Royals about a week and a half ago. And through an organizational commitment from the Angels to what I do in the food allergy space, they asked me to come up and throw the first pitch. And hey, I got it there. That's all I can say. Slightly overthrew it, but at least I got it there.
Hey, underthrowing is better than overthrowing is better than underthrowing, right?
That's right. It was a good time. It was a great time.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I'm fascinated with what you do on the medical side of things. It's very different than the event world. It's very numbers driven. It's very data oriented. And in the event space, it's, there's a hospitality component and all of that. But just kind of to start this conversation, what interested you in the beginning in getting into weddings, to maybe turning a property that you owned into a wedding venue? Kind of what was the inspiration behind that?
I mean, it's really complicated, right? Because I got into the space, I'd say, at least as far as weddings, I almost completely random. It was not even an expected opportunity. I will say for a long time, I've been known as a guy who likes to throw nice events, good parties. I pay a lot of attention to detail, and I appreciate the experience, anyone has to go through. So if you're coming to my venue or going to any party that I'm throwing, I'm going to make sure you have a great time. I've always put that first and foremost. And in fact, I apply that to all my businesses, whether it's the medical side, the scientific data science, anything. I'm always pretty cognizant of the user experience. I think that's key. So in 2019, after many years of looking for like a property, I was always interested in owning a farm. I wanted to get into agriculture for a whole bunch of reasons. I finally got a place. Somehow it kind of worked out. It was this beautiful location, poised at about 3,000 feet elevation, 8 miles to the ocean, right in the middle of all these beautiful valleys. And it happened to have lots of avocados, lots of avocado trees, a bunch of amazing grape vineyards, a bunch of beautiful homes. It was really a wonderful place. And then, of course, I closed escrow and the pandemic hits, right? So just like that, everything just stopped. And it was really unusual because I was looking to learn, I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know even how to run a farm, frankly. So I did my research beforehand, but now no one was available to even bounce ideas off of. So just like everything I do, bootstrap it up, work hard and just try to find a way to figure it out. And I got on the property. My family helped me a lot. My wife and my kids, we just went out there and just did this thing. And sure enough, a month into the pandemic, it was sometime in May of 2020, this couple shows up at the property just randomly and kind of drives up, flags me down and says, excuse me, do you mind if we could, maybe get married at your farm because, our wedding got canceled because of the pandemic. And my immediate reaction was, no, I'm sorry. It's not what I do. I can't, I have no knowledge. I don't want to do this. Thank you very much. They were very persistent. So they came back the next week And this time they got a hold of my better half, my wife, and she said, "Oh, come on, just do it for them. Let them have this, And I was like, oh man, I don't know if this is such a good idea, but so I that was the first experience. I said, all right, let's figure this out. It was only, if I remember right, there's only like 18 people, 18, 20 max, and just, had a very small little gathering, and, they had a wonderful time. They drove away in this classic vehicle, all the cans on it. And I got to see the whole thing. So I was like, oh, that was cool. That was really nice what we did. And next thing I know, they put it up on Instagram, and the rest was history.
Wow. And at the point that we intersected, I think there was already a little bit of traction going. You had already started getting some inquiries and some things. He had stuff set up, and it's been really cool to work with you over the past couple of years, just like through all the iterations and everything that's going on. I wanted to ask you though, I'm curious, everything that you do, well, and before we get on to this next stage, could you give us a little bit of background on you pre-wedding venue? Because you have you're incredibly accomplished, anywhere you go. In fact, one of my favorite things, I just got to share this really quick. We have got several people who have said something like, oh, I've met Dr. Randhawa, or, oh, Dr. Randhawa helped my child overcome this allergy or something completely unrelated. And you're in Long Beach, so like the marriage of those two, pardon the pun, of those two worlds has been really neat for me to see. Tell me about what is your life professionally like prior to this wedding venue stuff?
Yeah, look, I'm a total oddball, right? I'm an unusual guy. I'm a physician. I'm a scientist. I'm a business entrepreneur. I'm a data scientist. I'm a technology developer. I wear a lot of hats. I run basically 10 companies, excluding my venue. And for a lot of folks, that's crazy. Like, why would you do all that? What I do the most is I want to make an impact. I want to make a real serious impact. And I want to do it in conditions that don't ever get enough attention. Like, it's really that simple. I call them orphan conditions, not just me. A lot of people will call these orphan diseases, conditions that nobody else really wants to own. My background really specifically is I'm a transplant immunologist. So I do lung transplants, solid organ transplants. I'm an ICU pulmonary doctor. I run a very large, set of hospital divisions here at one of the largest hospitals in the nation. So I'm balancing a lot of things. But, a few years into all that work, I was still kind of, I'd say, bothered more or annoyed more than anything else that things weren't being done for these people who had these conditions that no one wanted to touch. So as somebody who worked in science and research, and someone who was dealing with transplants, I was all about numbers. Like, okay, let's look at this from a number standpoint. How can we look at this through data sets? And so the first condition I really kind of tackled was a condition called sickle cell disease. It's an orphan condition, typically affects, African Americans and Mediterranean folks. And the number one problem they have is really bad lung disease. So I basically studied this immensely, built up these data sets, and created a way to forecast their lung disease. Not only published it, but got a massive endowment, and it's the only center of its kind to this day, 20 years later. And I said, okay, we got this thing moving. It's making a huge impact. What's next? And started doing this with a couple of the lung conditions, and frankly, kind of stumbled into the world of food allergies and food anaphylaxis because I saw them come in the ICU, and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, they were totally fine 20 minutes ago, and now they're in real bad shape. And did the same approach. I said, I got to understand this from a number standpoint. So I'm talking about understanding, whether it's peanuts or you name the food, what is it that the immune system's looking at when somebody eats this thing? What does that response look like from a number standpoint, pure numerical analytics? And this is way before ChatGPT was popular, right? This is back in the, mid 2000s, and started building data sets. And that led me down the path of, really amazing diagnostics to actual therapeutics. And yeah, what we do is we take patients who are grossly anaphylactic to milk, eggs, you name it, and we turn it off. At the end of our program, we'll not only forecast how to get them to the finish line, we will actually have them complete the program eating like a totally non-allergic person. So if they're anaphylactic to peanuts, they eat peanut butter jelly sandwiches. They're anaphylactic to milk, they're eating bowls of ice cream. And so those folks you met, it is, a huge impact for them, because they're like, imagine having a disease that's totally turned off, not only for the short term, but their entire life. It's huge.
As you said that, I got goosebumps because seriously, the impact to someone's life, and I've seen it, and the amount of gratitude, Facebook posts, like, I don't know if, I'm sure you've probably Googled your name at some point, but like, folks are very grateful for the work that you've done through this organization and others. So I'm curious, you spoke all over the country. You have multiple things. Your clinics now, I mean, it was one location, but how many locations are you up to right now?
We got about 150,000 square feet of space, 300 plus employees. We have multiple sites all over Long Beach area. We're also in Orange County and in San Diego. So we're up in Vista, Oceanside area. And we're looking to open up a site in San Francisco next and then beyond. It's interesting, right? Like, imagine if any other medical condition was like this, right? You have a diagnosis of X. You could actually go in, draw your blood, have this amazing amount of data run, and actually predict when and how you'll get to remission with absolute clarity. Like, in this much time in the future, you will be in a state of remission with this much % chance of success. That it just doesn't happen anywhere else in any other space. That's kind of what I've been working on, what we built, that full stack AI, it's full artificial intelligence. I've been building now for well over a decade. We published it, we've run it, it's fully regulated. So like, the product is there. Now we just got to get the word out and continue to kind of do this in a way that is first and foremost safe. It has to be very safe for these patients. They have to have a great experience. And secondly, make sure we train all the human operators, the people that we hire are great employees, and say, hey, let's make sure you're fully up to date of how this is going to operate and run. So there's really, again, nothing like it. Nothing like this idea of full forecastable AI. You hear about generative AI, all these other kind of terms, but this is actually a whole other level of advancement of AI that most people don't even think about.
Forecastable AI. So you're talking about, and this was kind of the prediction element that you were referencing just now. Are they putting in details about themselves and then based on past data sets? Could you expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So we have about 16,000 patients that have been treated, right? Huge amount of patients. All of those patients' experiences are fed into our databases and live in these sets of databases. These databases are the source from which AI learns, right? So when somebody comes in, we're not just drawing blood. Yeah, of course we're drawing their blood, but we're matching it up against literally 900 trillion plus data points. And that is going to use its information analytics to say, hey, this is who you are. This is how we're going to get you from this current state of anaphylaxis to this state of tolerance. And you're going to be able to eat like a normal person. And not only that, here's how many visits it takes. Here's how it's going to impact all of our operational costs and employees. Here's how we're going to manufacture all the proteins to make sure that gets done. And that's why we've been able to do this fully bootstrapped with essentially minimal to no external investment, and go from nothing, to, really a mid-sized company. Wow.
That's insane. I have questions about the management of that in just a second, but just for anyone who's listening right now or watching on YouTube, where can people, if people are just like, that part is really, really interesting, where can people go to connect on that? A website?
Sure. So we got multiple, foodallergyinstitute.com. Foodallergyinstitute.com is the way to go to learn about the food allergy space. On the data science side, it's TPIRC or tperc.com. That houses the nonprofit work we do. And within that, you can dig deeper into how we build our data loops and our data science models.
Amazing. Awesome. So yeah, everyone, and we're going to put the links to all that in the description of this so people can go find that and really dig a little bit deeper, because it is so neat. It's fascinating to me. The part that I want to ask you about is, with the scale that you're operating at, you absolutely have to be organized. You've got to run, I'm sure you have a ridiculous schedule in terms of just like everything that you do, because you've got people asking you questions and needs and everything pulling. How do you stay organized? How do you time manage? How do you time block? Like, how do you, as the founder, as the like all of these hats that you're wearing, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. In fact, it may be the most common question I get asked. And my answer is probably very different than most people. I hear people, say time block and, different organizational strategies. How many assistants do you have? What I essentially do is I run everything off of, again, I'm a data scientist, right? So I run everything off of dashboards, right? So it's kind of an interesting way to run things. So because everything I run is operational and actually has inputs and outputs, I will run every part of my day through dashboard-based information. So I'll give you an example that's applicable to anybody watching this, which is marketing, right? So you look at marketing, we have to market our company, we have to market what we do across all the companies I run. And now the world of digital marketing, it's super complicated, right? How is your digital approach working? How many, users are actually interacting? What phase of conversion or enrollment are they towards your company? I'd say for the last 20 years, this has been a very fuzzy kind of topic, right? People don't clearly link things up. It's not like it used to be before the digital, push of this. But now if you actually connect and actually tag all of your data effectively, you can build Sankey diagrams, things of that nature, and actually design, hey, I had 150,000 users hit these websites. These were our journey responses. Here's what happened next with the intervention. Here's what the next step was. And frankly, only in the last 2 years are you seeing platforms built to support this, but we built this before it even existed, right? So it's about controlling data. It's not easy to do. I mean, I totally get that. This is kind of a weird way of looking at things, but when you have your finger on the pulse of how operations are going across every one of your companies, you actually don't worry that much, right? Because you don't have too many emergencies. If you see, and again, where this comes from is my background, again, as a an ICU person. I'm looking at vital signs. I'm looking at how someone's doing in their sickest of states. I'm looking at pure numbers. And I could tell, usually within 2 to 3 minutes looking at a patient in the ICU, exactly how stable are they, what's going to happen to them for the next hour to 6 hours. I use that same model when I'm dealing with anything I'm looking at across business, professional, personal life, or whatever. And it takes work because you have to literally go there and build what you want on your dashboard and say, what is the information that's critical for me to know that the vital signs of my company, my personal life, my social life, whatever it may be, are good and doing well. And ultimately, if you do that, then you build your schedule around what those needs may or may not be.
Hey there, friends. Jonathan here, and I wanted to share about Common Sense Events Management Services. Common Sense Events is my company, and we professionally manage and operate venues all across the United States. And we would love to have the opportunity to chat about your venue if management would be the right solution for you. This is a great opportunity for people who are looking to maybe get out of the industry, or maybe they want to keep their property, but they don't want to sell it, but they still want to make money from it. Our team comes in and we do everything from the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire a local team. We take care of the taxes. We pay them. We keep them accountable. We take care of all the management. We do all the sales process. We do all the operations, everything from setting up to tearing down tables and chairs, and everything that it takes to run an incredible wedding. The best part about this all, it is not super expensive. We actually have a lot of these agreements set up as management contracts where there's a revenue share. And so it is really an awesome and frequently affordable way to work with an outsourced management company so that your venue stays under your brand name, but you have a custom venue management solution for you so you don't have to be working 80 hours a week. If this sounds appealing to you, please send us a message using the link in the description of this video or podcast. You could also send us an email at venues@cseventservices.com. We would absolutely love to hear from you and see if there's a way that we could partner with you and serve you. I love that you said vital signs. Like vital signs. You're looking for signs of life, whether it's marketing. And you're totally appreciative of the choir here, because this is something I talk to folks a lot about inside WEVA, our association, the podcast. It's, you don't know if what you're doing is effective. Like if you're just throwing marketing dollars out there on an online platform or whatever. And this will resonate with the audience. If you're spending money on an online platform, but you're not tracking the leads that come through there, is it working? I don't know. You know what I mean? And
it's frustrating.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more tactically. So for example, I know you have assistants, you have different things, different kind of pockets. I understand the dashboard concept, but what happens like for meeting management? Like, hey, got a minute? Hey, and I'm asking this question because I think to this day, and this is something I really respect about you, I got to say, I don't have your cell phone number. And I don't think that's by accident. In fact, I've kind of been like, hey, I'll talk to the doctor, but you do things in a very, very organized way. And I appreciate that as the CEO of my company. I've got people who are hitting me up all day long. I feel like there's an intentional strategy around that. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've been doing this for the same way since 2009.
Okay.
And I learned a hard lesson that back then. So in 2009, I actually had a small kind of breakout practice I built here in Orange County. And, again, I took a lot of complex patients. I was known to be very good with the super complicated patients. They'd call me, there used to be a show in the old days called House. I was like the house doctor. This guy could solve very complicated cases. And so, would start off with like 10 patients, suddenly turn into 50, turn into 500 patients. And I'm talking about a half day a week. It was on a Friday afternoon. Next thing I know, I'm not leaving that clinic until like 10 p.m. at night. Not good, not healthy. And I started asking these patients, like, look, I'm going to have to start to slow this down because I can't find another doctor to do this. You came to me with a super complicated case. We solved your case. I need you now to go back to your main physicians and you'll be okay. I can't be the guy to continue this. And what I found was people will, and this sounds a little rough, but people will regularly not value your time. Now, and that's just human nature, right? Think about the balance here. I'm the guy who, has to see, huge number of patients potentially in a short period of time. They have all these needs. Now, I've met all their needs. I've fixed their technical problem, but guess what? They have more that they want, right? So this human nature of saying, well, I want more of this balance is human nature. And frankly, the more I'd say, skills you have, the more you have to offer to folks, that sways even worse in that direction. And essentially what ended up happening back then is I gave patients my email. I gave people access to me. And it was absolutely not only hurting my business. I mean, of course I was making money, but it was hurting anything else I wanted to build. But it also put me in a really bad position where my time was completely gone. Like I simply was now obligated to manage these things, especially as a physician. So the next thing I did is I said, all right, I'm going to charge a concierge fee just to kind of weed out people. I did that. Almost no one left. I was like shocked. I didn't up the price again. Almost no one left again. I literally had to shut down the practice. That's literally how bad it was. And when that happened that day, I said, all right, you know what? Never again am I going to be devalued, for the skills and what I have to offer. And it's not a personal thing, right? It's about saying, look, there's a value to what I do in my time. I'll make sure that you get what you need. I'll make sure that you're always taken care of, but it's going to be balanced. It's not going to be one person owning this whole side of things. So at that stage, I said, all right, organization of time is important. I hear time blocking all the time. Again, not a huge fan of that concept, but what I have is a rhythm to how I run all my businesses. So I will literally, and that sounds crazy, but I will literally schedule my entire calendar 9 to 12 months in advance. So literally I know what's going on in December of this year. I know what parts of my companies need a certain set of touch points all the time. So I'm running 10 companies simultaneously. That schedule is relatively consistent, but it allows ample flexibility where let's say there is an urgency towards something, I can add in more things for that time period and back off. And so having, again, this data-centric approach, time longevity approach, and very importantly, I'd say, controlling access, it's very important because it allows you to control the dialogue and the dynamic. And of course, if you train your teams really well, they should do that for you, right? They should really kind of be an extension of you. And that's something I tell all my teams who work very close to me. I say, look, you are an extension of me. So, by all means, I'm here for you. You let me know what you need, but you're an extension of me. I trust you. We're going to make sure you have all the knowledge you need to make sure that you are able to make sure the success of the company is paramount. Got it.
I seriously, I respect it so much because I've seen the impact that, and I'm in the process of learning those own lessons. Like we've, as we've had this podcast, even as we've had, we've like more people, there've been more things on my plate to do. And so I really respect that because there's a level of discipline that you have to say, not everything is a priority for me. Even if you want to serve or you have the tools or the knowledge or whatever to serve in a certain capacity, it's not always the best choice because there might be a micro benefit, but a macro cost.
You got it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, sorry, just one last thing. I mean, Scott Galloway talks about this all the time. He does a great job, talking about how you have these different circles. You have your social circle, personal circle, and ultimately it's your children. And as a dad that, you have to make sure they have enough time, and I think anybody who grows up with families where one parent's super busy and kind of non-present, that's the one thing people are always shocked at, that I have 3 kids and that I can't say I'm home every single night, at the best time, but generally speaking, they're like, all right, I'm there, I'm active, I'm present. And that to me is the ultimate circle of importance because whenever something bad happens, everything collapses down to your kids and you're going to put all the energy into that.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. And actually, I kind of have an unscheduled question that just kind of popped up. When you think, and feel free, if you don't want to answer this, is it difficult, and I'm asking out of my own curiosity, is it ever difficult to kind of turn off? Because you're in work, you're doing all these things and you've got to be on point. And then with your kids, at different times, there's a different thing that's needed, energy-wise, maybe even. Is that ever difficult to pivot? Do you have any like tricks or hacks that you just kind of decompress before going into that family zone, or is that not an issue?
It's a good question. I would say, because I wear so many hats, literally I will go from meeting to meeting to meeting. And in one meeting, I'm talking to my core team of research scientists about that world. My next meeting could be, a PR release we're doing on NBC. The next meeting, something totally different. So I'm very comfortable shifting and then being in the moment. You have to be in the moment. The one thing, working in hospital settings teaches you is that you can't get flustered. If you're, you could have a serious emergency going on over here. You got to be focused on this moment right here, as long as that's being handled, right? So when I deal with my kids, I am in the moment. You have to be. You owe that to them, right? That's something that every parent should do. And you go the worst day at work, you can have whatever, emergencies that are occurring, but that 10, 15, 30 minutes, look, you can get back to that work when that's done, right? But being in the moment is critical, because it does, I think, refocus you to what's critical and most important in life. It also gives you peace of mind, kind of when you're trying to address those bigger issues, right? Perspective. In the end, it's all about having the right kind of perspective. So yeah, ultimately, I don't overthink that, but when I go in, I will fully be in the moment. And that's really important.
Yeah. One of the things that I've learned, and I can't say this is the same for the medical field, but most things aren't as urgent as they may seem. And obviously in a medical field, it's a little bit different. Things, if they're urgent, it might be a life or death sort of thing. But, for the venue owners that are listening out there, even if you're thinking about owning a venue or being in this world, time blocking, not so much. Data focused though, right? And I love what you said also about controlling the access. Like, not everyone, and for venue owners out there that are working with 50, 80, 100 brides, and then by extension, all the vendors and the family members and different people who may have access to them, they don't all need your information. They don't all need, you can empower your people to make some of those decisions. So that's awesome. Let's wrap today. I wanted to talk about what you're doing from an agricultural perspective. I know the avocados and the wine, you just got done with the first real season of bottling, correct?
That's right. No, it's pretty cool. We've been at it for a couple of years. We've tried, failed, but this year we actually bottled a really good, unique rosé. It's a rosé blend from Pinot, Merlot, and Syrah, which is something you almost never find. What makes us unique is that we are really one of the few Pinot growers in California, in the entire state. And so it's a bit of a frizzante rosé, which is really cool. And yeah, it looks like we're about to sell our first bottles, which is even cooler. But it is solid. And then we're obviously working on a number of other grape varietals, and that's tons of fun. On the avocado side, we're making progress. Remember, this is all kind of evidence of climate change and all, the negatives that are coming with that, where, the valley where the venue is 90% of avocados that are grown in the entire United States are grown in this valley. And at one time, this was, the biggest thing. All of the United States would receive its avocados. Now most avocados are imported from Mexico and South America during certain times of year. We got to then be on our A game for our season. Well, when I first got this place, water was an issue, heat was an issue, how we control soil and all the important nutrients that actually can stabilize these things. And we've had to kind of really refresh and reboot this thing. So we've taken down approximately 4,000 trees in size, and actually have redirected a lot of the water mechanics, changed a lot of the soil biology, doing things that no one else does, frankly, because I was like, look, there's got to be a better way. Let's study this and research this and bring in some good minds. And in just a short period of time, we've reduced our water costs by 70% or more, which is huge. We actually have increased, fruit harvest. So the avocados are bigger and better. And we just started. So I'm very excited. I think in the next couple of years, we'll be in even a better place. And I hope to be not the largest avocado producer, but we want to be one of, kind of the top folks, 500,000 pounds or more per year is what we're looking for.
Yeah. Well, you have an incredible property. I mean, obviously I've seen it. I've worked there before. the weddings that have come out of that place and the pictures and everything, just absolutely stunning. But it's really neat. And thank you. I appreciate you just taking the time out of your schedule to share with us some of these things, because there is so much to a property, but then there's such a bigger vision and bigger picture of all the things that you're working on. And it's really meaningful that you spent some time to kind of share that with us today. So could you just one more time, the two different places. So TPIRC is the one, and then the food allergy. So could you say that again? Are you guys active on social as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, but our primary websites are foodallergyinstitute.com if you're interested in the food allergy space and all the AI tech scope there. And then the nonprofit I built that precedes the Food Allergy Institute is called TPIRC or tpirc.com. And it talks about all the other cool things we're doing in orphan disease, all the way to research, advocacy, awareness, and of course our data modeling and build. So, but I've really enjoyed talking to Jonathan. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was awesome. Well, thanks again for your time, and we'll see you on a monthly meeting here soon.
Thanks a lot.
Pardon the interruption, I wanted to take a moment and share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it is a professional association custom built for venue owners and operators. We felt like there was a lack of resources, community, education, and networking available specifically for our industry. And so we recently started this association, and it's been growing by the day. We would love to extend an invite to you, so please click the link in the description or wherever you're watching this video, and we would love to welcome you into the community.